All right. Welcome to Eight Questions with. I'm your host, Patrick from Have Cheetah Will View. The Cheetah will be around. I'll probably be around. The last 3 or 4 interviews, the Cheetah has made himself part of the show. I have a feeling that will happen again tonight. Tonight, we are welcoming in Don Anelli from the Horror Countdown podcast. Uh,
Oh,
yes, sirree. And greetings. Normally I don't have the guest on so early, but I said, I know what we could talk about too, because it seems like everybody is talking about, even though I haven't seen it yet, but we could talk about Scream 5 for 15 minutes. That could be a topic we could talk about. Okay, I think I just froze him up with that. He got frozen. Um, so yeah, I was over at the Night Watch Zone earlier today, and
yeah.
well,
Sorry about that. Don't worry. Yeah, don't worry about that. I think that'll probably happen a couple of times. It's me.
it
It's
does.
my internet. Yeah, that'll
Aren't
probably happen. Yeah, that'll probably happen a couple of times. I'll probably drop out or just disconnect or something. But yeah, it's my internet. Don't worry about it.
what town are you in exactly?
Pico Rivera.
Wow. Okay. I thought maybe you're up there and like near Mount Baldy or some of the hills.
No, I'm about an hour south of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's usually where it's like my usual general location. Yeah, I'm like an hour south of Los Angeles. So,
Yep. Used to go to church in Pico Rivera.
oh, nice.
Yep. I grew up in SoCal. I was in the Inland Empire, Ontario. Um, so yeah, Southern Cal is like a second home.
Oh,
So
nice. Well, I mean, you know how small it is, so you know how bad our signals are out here.
yeah, I guess the more people, it's harder to service so many people all at once.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I was just saying, like we got a few minutes to kill while folks wander in. Um, I was watching the Night Watch Zone, and they were talking about Scream 5, and I was thinking about their show, and I was so entertained, as I always am.
Mm.
I'm always entertained because before that movie came out, there was they were super fandom for some of the fellas. Oh my god, super fandom. um Now, but then afterwards they came out and like Knight, that's his favorite franchise. And so there he and Coriander were talking about it, and man, I was like, I was really listening to what they're saying, and they gave a pretty good, they broke down the movie pretty good. um Actually, Knight saw it the same way I did. I read this. I haven't seen it, but I read the synopsis for it, and
Yeah.
it did seem like the main characters were more supporting characters. They weren't really the leads.
Yeah. That I mean, I don't know if you. I mean, you said you haven't seen it, but yeah, that was one of the many issues I had with the film as well. I'm also really not that high on it. I haven't heard their show, so I can't say where they stand. But yeah, I was really disappointed. I had a lot of issues with it. Yeah, that's one of them. The fact that the legacy characters, you could have replaced Gale and Sid with cardboard mannequins for the first. I mean, for like until you get to the final 20 minutes, you could have replaced them with cardboard cutouts wearing their clothing, and you couldn't have told the difference. They contribute nothing.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean that's just like one of the many issues. I don't know how much of a spoiler this would be, so tread caution with this. But knowing who the killer is and the reveal going on when that happens, looking back at a lot of the other scenarios as to who has to be the killer in these particular scenes, absolutely just flies completely against the. There's like no way that they knowing who has to be the killer in those particular scenes, it just absolutely kills the scene dead because of it. It has to be them. So this makes what goes on in these particular scenes completely. You can't do that essentially.
I mean, they revealed them too early.
No, no, it's knowing who the killer is. You have to put the other person into that scene as the killer because This isn't a spoiler. This again follows the franchise rule that there's more than one, so there's two killers.
Okay,
Like I said, that's not a spoiler. That's the franchise staple. There's two
right.
killers. So knowing that one of the killers is unmasked in that particular scene means that the other one has to be behind the mask during that attack. Knowing what happens because of that makes you can't do that because knowing who it is means that it's physically impossible for that person to commit the act in that sequence.
Oh, right, right. So the killer couldn't have done the crime because he wasn't there.
Okay, I'm gonna say it this way. You remember in part four where they have Jill be the killer,
Okay.
and she's 4 foot nothing, and yet she towers over everybody. She's like the same size as like the 5 foot cast members, and
Right.
yet
Okay.
she's able to throw them around, and she has to like stab them, and she has to like be physical and intimidating in that sequence with a person that's a foot taller than they are. It's
Right.
the
So
same scenario. It's the same scenario here because they
okay.
put because I'm going to try to be as vague as this as possible. One of the smaller members in the cast is the killer. So to see them physically throw around one of the other taller, physically statuesque characters when they die in a physical manner, you can't
You're not
do that.
buying it.
Yeah, you can't have, a 5 foot person throw around a 6 foot physically fit, individual. It's
Right.
one of those kinds of things where, you can't, like, especially because, like I said, there's two killers. One of them is actually present, unmasked in the scene. They're as themselves. They're not under the mask. So they're there with the other people being attacked. So it's got to be the other one that's in the mask at that time, and they're throwing people around in a far more physical manner than what they should be doing if they're who they are instead of
I guess
it.
that's the way they. I guess they filmed the story so that it's supposed to throw you off. The way they used
Yeah,
to.
but it's like I said, yeah, it's just one of those. I mean, you don't really think about it, but then when you know who the reveal is, and you think back on who the killers have to be for these specific instances, it throws your logic off.
There's another. We were talking about that. I think last week I was talking about this on a stream, and we were talking about Jack Reacher. The character Jack Reacher, and I like Tom Cruise very much. I like him very much as an actor, and he played Jack Reacher in two films. But watching him, you watch him as two ways. You watch him as Tom Cruise, the actor, it's great, but as Jack Reacher, you're not really buying it because Tom Cruise is like 5'8", 5'9", 170, and Jack Reacher in the books, he's 6'5", 240, 250. He's a big man. And then you see Tom Cruise, and you go like, yeah, it's like half of you's like, okay, Tom Cruise is a good actor, but yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing him as Reacher. And I think that
Yeah,
was
that
really what the problem with the fans was. The fans were like, we like Tom Cruise fine, but he's not Jack Reacher.
yeah,
So I get
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and then there's a bunch of other things too. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail. I've done that already on another podcast. But for a series that purports itself to be as smart as it is, it's not. It's there's like a whole bunch of just nonsensical character decisions that go on throughout the film that I I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, they want they
Yeah,
Night liked it a lot more than Coriander. Coriander was like, she, I don't think she really liked it too much. But
yeah. I like I said, I'd have to hear that episode to hear where they stand because I mean I don't know, but yeah, I wasn't that impressed with it.
But they did say one thing, and I mentioned this before too, and I did mention this already, but like the one thing they commented on, which I would have to agree with, is that David Arquette was really good in it. He said
Yeah,
he was
he was. Yeah,
far, yeah, he was by far the highlight of the whole film. And they were really disappointed that they, the way
I
his character
he
was
was
drawn.
he wasn't the highlight of the film. I definitely say that would go more towards the gore effects because this is easily the most brutal of the entire series.
So,
Um, yeah, yeah, the
so
kills are the kills are quite brutal, and they're far more graphic than what you'd think. It's not like this insane like hatchet style splatterfest or anything, but it's from what I remember, it's easily like the most brutal and graphic of the series. So I really appreciate I really like the kills in this one. They're my favorite part. Amongst the cast, yeah, Dewey was easily the favorite though.
um,
He had the best character arc and he had some of the best scenes in the film. So yeah, I agree with that completely.
it's funny because I mentioned, it seems like his acting has gotten better and better. Like he was in Bone Tomahawk, he did a really nice job in that. And he did a movie called, I want to say Jack and Anna, or Jack and so they went go glamping. It was a husband and wife that they went glamorous camping. It was him and Amy Acker, and boy, he was really good in that too. Real good,
Hmm.
real good. It's one of my, I think, probably my favorite performance by anything he's done. Um, because when he was growing up, he was younger. His acting and himself were, he didn't mature till later in life. It seemed like, like he,
Yeah,
his marriage to Courtney Cox always it always came across more like it always came across more like I don't want to say it like in a creepy way, but it's always seemed more like a parent-child type relationship. Like she was there holding the strings. Make sure he didn't do anything, like stupid. Don't do anything stupid. You know, she was always the more serious of the two. And he was just immature. But it seems like as he's
kind of.
gotten
Yeah,
older, yeah, as he's gotten older,
yeah. That
he
was
just
always. I always thought that was. I always. Yeah, I always thought that was a kind of a.
it was a strange. You just didn't see the attraction. You know, I mean, he wasn't even so much of a bad boy, but he was just a boy. You know. Let's see. Uh, you still hear me? Oh, okay. So, yeah, this always happens. Glitches happen here, right when the show starts. Streamyard. Thanks, Hobbs. We're just chopping it up a little bit about Scream 5. Uh, Don's Don's internet is on the fritz. I mean, he's in LA area, so his internet is a little wonky. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, there you go.
Yeah. I'm saying I'm gonna. That's probably gonna happen a couple of times throughout this, but I mean, it only looks like it's lasting like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. So
My provider, they do this to me at night around like a couple of times overnight, like around 2:30 or 3:30. They shut down my internet for like 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. It's like, I mean, I know they're probably doing maintenance or whatever, but they should call me, or at least let me
yeah.
know. So, like, could you do my maintenance during this time of day because I'm not online this time of day? That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, as far as Scream goes, I'm glad to see it. I was
Yeah, I wouldn't say I hated it. I would just say I was disappointed with it.
I just don't get the idea. Like, I know they're already talking the right way. Like they're gonna pass off the torch, to the next group of people and everything else. I just don't know how they could carry on the story. It's like how I mean,
The thing that
how
I
do you,
the thing that I've always said, and this was I know you wouldn't have known about this, but I've always said to do this, you have to kill off Gales, Sydney, and Dewey, and start over with the new group.
yeah,
You have to kill them off, and you have to do a new group. Whether it's keeping Kirby from 4 alive and bringing her along, or you just make it to where Scream isn't Sydney, Scream is Ghostface. It's just people picking that costume and then carrying on using the costume. Like that's I I think that's the way it's got to go. I think you've got to just cut ties with everybody, cut the thing completely, and then it just be Ghostface. Ghostface carries the franchise. You use
Like
the co-
yeah,
you use the costume and the mask is what makes it a Scream movie. Maybe you could also do it to where it's like the killer uses it the same thing where he's always questioning them about horror movies, and you have like a horror movie expert as like the serial killer who's killing people off because reasons or whatever. Like you do it
yeah.
that way instead of it being Sidney, Gale, and Dewey.
Um, what did you I mean, yeah, I mean, I can see that because I'm just trying to figure out, like, because based on this movie, like I said, it's more based on the legacy characters were just supporting. They weren't taking charge. They were just laying back in the cut until like the last act. Um, and I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, so for Scream 6, what are you gonna do? Who's gonna come back and how they're gonna be related? Because it always seems to be someone related to somebody, from the previous films. And I mean that could work a little bit, I guess, but uh,
Eh,
I think part of the reason why this movie did so well was because the
it was nostalgia. It was
yeah I didn't
nostalgia.
yeah I didn't see the
It's
series.
I never paid attention to it either.
No, okay.
I didn't I didn't pay any attention to the series. To be honest, I am not a TV series guy. I've never seen any of it. I mean, you can not even just with Screen, but you can run down any TV show. I don't watch any of it. I'm
Yeah,
not a TV series guy. I'm a movie guy.
yeah, I guess I go with both. I was watching before the night, I was having my dinner and I was like, oh, I gotta watch a little something while I have something to eat. So I slipped on the first episode of Heroes, which I haven't seen since it came on way back when. And I'm going like, okay, I remember this, and I remember Heroes. I remember how I guess I was really frustrated with it because it was such a great opportunity,
Yeah.
and it just bombed. They just never knew what they were doing with the movie. They were afraid. What it really was, I'll tell you what it was with Heroes was they were afraid to make it into a cape show, which is what they needed to do. They needed to put the characters in capes and costumes to make it work, and they never did. And I think people just they weren't vested into it. And then when they did, they came back in 2015. They're going to try to relaunch it, and I thought, okay, so the creator will have learned from he'll learn from it, from the previous 10 years. Now he sees how DC works, how Marvel works, how everybody really is into that. So when he comes back with the new heroes, he's going to do that. He did not. He didn't do anything. He did the same damn show he did before, which no one ended up watching. Everybody wanted to see him. We were waiting for him to put people in costumes, and he never did. And so when the new series came out, people just didn't give a shit, and it turned into a mini series event. But it was a failure because that's not what it was designed. It was designed as a relaunch. They're going to try to relaunch the series,
Mhm.
but because no one watched it, they only ended it at 13. Um, Mr. Bones is here. Hi, loves. How are you? All right. Is it 8 o'clock yet? I think it is about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I
We
think
could
it's a few minutes after.
yeah. All right. So let's chop it up a little bit. So your podcast is the Horror Countdown podcast, and you're a movie buff. So obviously the first question is, when did you get into movies? How old were you, and what did you like to watch when you were younger? And
I know this one explicitly because I've relayed this story several times. So it may sound like it'll sound like a cliche, but I've told this story numerous times and I almost know it verbatim. So it started in the second grade. It was based on an assignment that one of my teachers gave me. The teacher does I forget the teacher, but the assignment was is that we had to interview our parents, and we had a bunch of questions that they gave us. But the idea was that we were to write down their responses to there was like 7 or 8 questions on it, and we had to ask. ask one of our parents the questions, and then we had to answer it ourselves. And then the idea was we would take three of those and then we'd write like a write up. So it was like we were learning how to like do compare contrast essays. And the idea behind the assignment was comparing our parents' lives to ours. But the thing is that my parents are a little bit older. My parents had me in their late 30s. They were in their late 30s when they had me. So my parents were a generation older than everybody else. My parents grew up around in the late 50s, early 60s. Everybody else in my class grew up late 60s, early 70s. So my parents, because I interviewed my dad for this, he was a big movie buff. He'd say, he'd go out, ski, water. He'd go to the ocean all day, and then he'd come home and he'd go to the drive-in with his cousin. Like that was like a typical Friday, like a typical Saturday day for him. So when it came time to tell us that, I figured, okay, well, like, give me like a couple movies or something that you like to watch. And he started listing off like a bunch of 50s sci-fi stuff, like Fantastic Planet, War of the Worlds, or not Fantastic Planet, Forbidden Planet, sorry. Forbidden Planet, War of the Worlds, It Came from Beneath the Sea, Ray Harryhausen stuff. And then he named one called Rodan. And I was like, why didn't like for some reason that one stuck out because it was the only one that was like a simple one word title. Everything else was like this big weird like 20 million miles beneath the sea or
Right.
yeah, it's like you've got this big like fantastic thing and then all of a sudden you just hear Rodan and it's like that one kind of like just like sticks out and it's like Rodan, what's that one about? And he like looked at me and was like, oh, I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while. It's something about a giant dinosaur and it does something. And as soon as he said dinosaur, I was like, "Ooh, interesting," because you're a kid, you're fascinated by dinosaurs. So I remember this vividly. We went to the local library, and I remember going into the library and looking up where like dinosaurs and movies and stuff like that. So I remember like looking up, okay, where's Rodan? Like, it's got to be here somewhere. And I ended up finding it in this book. It was the play. It was like that series from like the late '70s, that Playhouse series where it was like Godzilla and Kong and Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, and there was like the movie monsters, like the small little like children's picture books, and um, I don't remember the series, but I know somebody knows what I'm talking about. I found them in that. And I remember taking the book home and looking at it, and I remember like looking at the pictures of the movies, and they had like the stills and all the pictures, and they were talking about Godzilla and him being this fire breathing dinosaur, and he had like these spikes and these plates, and they said he breathed fire, and you had pictures of him, and you had pictures of this thing called King Ghidorah, who was like this three-headed dragon, and I'm like, these things sound amazing. I've got to watch them. And I remember just picking up like they said they were movies. So I remember like looking through like the TV guide every Sunday trying to figure out like where they were on TV. It's like these things have to be on here. I got to find them. I got to find them. And eventually we ended up finding them. I ended up finding him one week. Rodan was going to be on that Saturday.
Uh-huh.
So so, it was on, unfortunately it was on cable. So I we were my grandparents at the time, they were still alive. My grandparents, they had cable. So we usually went over every Sunday to, do housework, do maintenance. And the parents worked in the backyard while me and my sister, we stayed in and, we talked stories and all that kind of stuff. So I went in and I was like at the end of the meeting, it's like, I was kind of like getting up the courage to ask. And it was finally like, oh, can you do me a favor? There's this movie on TV I want to watch on Saturday. Could you tape it for me? Because, I'm not going to be here. We're going to be at school or, we're going to be doing like whatever. I don't remember, but we're not going to be here. Can you tape it and then, I'll watch it later. And, she said, sure. So, I left it at that. And the next week when we go there, she, hands me the tape and is like, here you go, here's the tape, here's the movie for you. So I get home and I like race to the TV to like turn it on. It's like I want to watch this, and my mom said, "No, you're not going to watch it. We're going to watch it tomorrow." And I threw a fit, and I was like, "No, I want to watch it now." And my mom said, "No, we're watching it tomorrow." Because I remember this vividly. The day after the Monday was Martin Luther King Day, so we had the day off.
Okay.
So we had the day off. So I was like, okay, my mom's gonna be home, holiday and stuff like that. So we're gonna, she's gonna watch the movie with me. And I'm like, no, I'm watching the movie now. So I came up with the bright idea. I'm gonna wait until everybody goes to sleep, and I'm gonna go into the living room, and I'm gonna turn on the TV, and I'm gonna mute it.
Now, how old were you when this was going on?
So I would have been either 6 or 7 because I'm in second grade.
Okay.
So I don't remember how I knew to mute the TV, but I went in there and I muted the TV. I put the movie in, and I still remember to this day watching the film and realizing how much my face hurt from smiling just watching this thing. Because I have this thing on like one or two medium on like the TV on the sound bar. And this is back in the 90s, so they're like a lot different than they are now. So this is like I'm like, 5 feet away from like, maybe of 2 feet away from the screen trying to hear everything. And all I'm seeing is I'm just seeing, all this chaos and destruction. And I'm seeing this dinosaur, this giant bird flying over cities and, pulling rooftops apart and, lifting cars up out of the ground and throwing it through the air and crashing into buildings and knocking over department stores and, standing up to tanks and, you know, tanks are firing at point blank at this thing and it's not even phased. And then you get to the finale and you see all this, military rockets going off and they're blowing up a mountain trying to kill this thing. And it's like, this thing is like the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And at the time, the only thing I have to compare to this is like, kids TV stuff like Sesame Street and Reading Rainbow and
Oh my goodness. Yep.
Thomas the Tank Engine. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that I was, like my parents had showed me. And then all of a sudden I'm watching this and it's just like, oh my God. It was just like, I think it was like this thing. It was like, I didn't know it was fake, but just like seeing like the visuals and the creativity and the concept of what was going on and just like everything going, like the giddiness of watching it and then just like seeing all this stuff going on. And it was just, I don't know what happened, but it just like connected. And I remember just like smiling through the whole thing. And I remember just like my face hurting because I was like smiling through the whole thing and it just stuck with me. Um, so like,
I was waiting for you to tell me that your dad came out and sat down with you and watched it with you.
no, they did the next day. So I had to rewind the tape. And my parents sat down and they watched the movie with me. They watched it after like breakfast or something because I remember um because they like they're like the parental guidance thing like they want to watch it with you. So I
Right.
remember like I remember that it was after breakfast because we had to wait for we had to wait for one of them to wake up because I think one of them just I don't remember why, but we had to wait a while for them to wake up, and then like we both sat down and we watched it together.
Well, you had
Um,
a. And did you now? Did you remember to act surprised?
well, yeah,
Like,
because I didn't hear anything,
oh, right. Oh,
so
okay.
I didn't hear anything. So yeah, all of the dialogue was like a complete thing. So in the very beginning, because there's a couple of jump scares, because I didn't know like because the beginning of the movie, it's not Rodan, it's actually these huge man-sized insects that are going around killing people, and then dealing with the insects ends up causing the Rodan to be revived, and he goes out into the world. So the first half of the film, it's like, okay, what the hell? Like, what's going on? Like, what are these like weird bug things that are these like centipede-like things? So all of the dialogue, all of that stuff was like completely new because I had no idea what any of that was. So it was like really easy to be surprised because I didn't hear anything. So it was just following the story and like connecting the dots because I was just going off the visuals. So that was like when I was watching it by myself, like that was the thing that was just like I was watching the visuals because I didn't want to turn it up loud enough for them to hear it. So I had to keep the volume down. But I was like too low and I was like still too far away and I still couldn't hear it. So I didn't want to like risk turning it up. So I just left it the way it was. I left it at like 1 or 2 or whatever. But I still couldn't hear anything. And so when I was watching it with them, a lot of the dialogue and all that stuff, it was kind of like, oh wow, yeah, I'm like, okay, I get what they're going on now. And I don't know if I let it slip or something, but I mean, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is fine, but like, keep it, like, y- yeah, I didn't really like remember any kind of like problems with anything like that.
So that was the start of your love with all things horror.
Okay, so when it shifted to horror, I actually kind of didn't become a horror fan for a long time. Because of I was watching, a lot of, Rodan and Godzilla and stuff like that. That was pretty much what I watched a lot as a kid. I watched a lot of, like Japanese monster movies, a lot of the, the other, special effects and fantasy films at that time. And because of that, my grandparents, who were actually much bigger fans than I was, they were bigger movie fans than I was.
Okay.
So when they found out that I was a movie fan, and I was like, watching, like I was requesting all these Godzilla movies, and it's like, can you watch, can we watch this? Can we watch this? Can you tape this? Can we do that? So they started to show me a bunch of their stuff that they watched. So my grandfather, he was big on westerns. So we watched a lot of the old John Wayne and Henry Ford and all of those kinds of films. So I spent a lot of time watching those with him, and then my grandmother, she liked film noir stuff. So she was like really big on like Hitchcock and Fritz Lang and a
Mm.
lot of those kinds of guys. So I watched a lot of those with them. And
You got a really rich cinema education.
I wouldn't say that because I don't remember a lot of them. I remember the experience. I remember the experiences more than the movies themselves.
Well, you
Um,
watched the movie since then, though, haven't you?
I've watched a couple since. I've watched a lot of Hitchcock stuff because I remember liking his stuff a little bit better. Um, but yeah, I would still say it's probably been at least a good 15 plus years since I've seen a lot of the other stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember the experiences of I remember the experiences more than the movies. But turning to horror, I was always kind of I've always struggled with this because I don't really know the proper term, but because I started showing an interest in movies, and a lot of the stuff was like, giant beasts.
Yeah, he Don's experiencing glitches here. We'll see if we can fix it. He'll probably have to he'll probably have to drop out and come back in. Wow, though. While he does that, I will step in and say that how cool is that? I do believe this is the first time. Oh, I was going to say, I think this is
Yeah,
the first time you're the first guest that I've actually heard that they got their love of film through their grandparents.
yeah. Well, it's basically because I spent a lot of time with them. Um, when I went to middle school, my middle school was 5 minutes walking distance from my grandparents' house. So because of that, as soon as I graduated high school, as soon as I graduated elementary school, it turned out that my parents both got job promotions, which meant longer working hours. So it was just a weird coincidence is that when I graduated elementary to go to middle school, my parents both got work promotions. So being that my middle school that I went to was 5 minutes from my grandparents, I went to their house and stayed with them until my parents got off work to come take me home and stuff like that. So because of that, we watched a lot of movies while I did my homework and stuff like that. So it was kind of one of those where being around them kind of helped explore my love of movies. So that's kind of like one of the things that I always like carry with me. Remember like being around them and stuff like that. But Because
Do
of
you
that,
remember, do you remember the
well,
first actors that you really that you really enjoy watching?
the first actor that it was one of the Godzilla movie actors because I remember I want to say it would be Akira Takarada because he was in a couple of the better Godzilla movies that I liked. He would have been one. I really don't remember actors so much more as I do directors. I mean, like I said, I remember Hitchcock, I remember Lang, I remember because I remember like he did all the Godzilla movies, you know, Ishiro Honda, and I remember just being like around like my dad, my grandfather. I remember like Howard, like Henry Ford, and like a lot of the early westerns.
Howard Hawks, John Ford, those type of directors.
Howard,
Howard Hawks and John Ford.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So I remember those. I remember those. Yeah, I remember them more than actors, but I mean, John
Uh,
Dean Martin.
oh, Dean Martin,
Trying
Jerry
to think,
Lewis.
there was a couple of. I'm trying to think. Yeah, a lot of the guys that did, you know, a lot of the, you know, big westerns in like the 50s and 60s. I remember seeing them just because, you know, that was like, you know, they started popping up. But I can't really say that there was ever really a time that I really got attached to a genre actor until it came to horror. Um, I think the first one that I really gravitated to is Christopher Lee. If you're talking horror films, it would have been Christopher Lee. But that was much later. So
Uh,
anyways, to quickly answer your horror thing, because I grew up being around my grandparents, they were like really heavily religious. So I wanted, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how to say this, but it was always kind of like imposed to be like you know, be like a moral person, like, you know, kind and caring and virtuous and honorable and stuff like that. So being, you know, horror movies that were like, you know, just going around slashing people and ripping them to pieces and you know, like violent and depraved acts, like that wasn't really kind of like what they wanted me to watch when I was growing up. So
right.
I didn't necessarily gravitate to them. It was always kind of like, well, I'm saying I was still kind of like at that age where you start to realize that your parents are kind of right, so you don't really like necessarily want, you're not necessarily at that acting out stage, you're more kind of like trying to like obey them because, you know, you're starting to realize, you know, you look both ways across the street, you're gonna get run over if you don't look both ways.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you're not in, you're like in that between like 10 and between that 10 and 12,
So you don't touch
13.
the stove because you, yeah, like I said, it's like, you know, you don't really get to like the rebellious stage until you become a teen, so you're still at that early age where, you know, your parents are still right, so you kind of like try to like fall in line with what they're saying. So they were kind of like saying, you know, like, don't watch this stuff. You like, you'll, you know, you'll have nightmares. You'll turn into, you know, a person that'll want to do this, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't
Right.
until I like, yeah, it wasn't until like I would say I was maybe 13, 14 that I started like
So
getting the kind of like, yeah, you're kind of like, you know, they're starting to look appealing. You're kind of like, you know, they're starting to look appealing. And
it's hard to believe that it's hard to believe that Southern California had such bad glitches. This is not uncommon. The glitches part. We've seen this before. It's just sort of amazing to me, you know, to see this. I'm talking to you guys in the chat. Um, this does happen quite a bit with SoCal guests. I don't know what, I don't know
yeah,
why or why it is. It's just Wow.
No, that's me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Like I
Yeah,
said,
I
I
just
knew.
go ahead. Um, Whenever you freeze up, Don, I'm just trying to keep it going until the your hiccup goes by. Um, yeah, I was like that too. It sounds like pretty much it sounds pretty much like the first. Most of us all start. I think the majority of fanboys. I don't know about fangirls. I don't know about fangirls, but I know for fanboys though, I think a majority of us really did cut our teeth on creature features. I think those are our
Yeah.
whole introduction to all things horror are the creature features.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think it's the
so the
gateway.
yeah, I mean, that was kind of like I said. I mean, Godzilla and Rodan.
Um, I'm trying to remember now. I'm trying. I mean, I watched. Gosh, I watched Psycho when I was younger. I think I saw Psycho before I saw my first Godzilla film. I saw like King Kong 1933. I saw that.
Yeah, that was
Frankenstein,
another big
all
one.
the yeah, all the Universal monsters. I saw all of those before I saw my first Godzilla film. And then, of course, when I saw Godzilla, it was so cool. It was really cool. But I never really was. I would never was scared. That never scared me. And never, it was just like it was just. That's why I don't see creature features necessarily as a horror film necessarily. Not back then. I mean, I think the kaiju movies of today are more have more horror elements today, but not back then. Um, but I'm still blown by your grandmother. She watched some seriously good talent. You watching Hitchcock and M. Lang. I mean, that's very mature. It's very mature movies to cut your teeth on. Um, and yeah, that's your grandparents were the they were the shit. My grandparents were anything like that. Um, no, not at all. My grandmother and my grandpa, they would have never thought about letting me watch that stuff growing up. Um, if you can hear me, so now you're 13 or 14, so that must have been like Halloweenish. You were getting into Halloween, maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you would have seen them.
No, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the first film I've credited as like being like my first horror movie.
Yeah.
That's the one that I always say.
Um, I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre late in life. I didn't see that until I was a junior in high school. Um, yeah, I
That's
didn't see that. Yeah,
kind
I
of where
didn't
I
see.
was. Yeah, I was like I said, it would have been around seven. I'm saying it would for me. It would have been like 96, 97. So I would have been right around going into high school that I would have seen it. So yeah, I was probably.
Yeah, I was. I mean, by that time I was already a horror fan. I mean, by the time I got to high school, I was knee deep in the hoopla, so to speak. So I already seen I've already seen Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I already seen all those movies. It wasn't until I got to my junior year that we played football games. And what they used to do, we used to go out as a team. We used to go out there and have a meal together, and then we go back to the school. And before we got on the bus or whatever, and then the coaches would they would play us a film. We watch, and then they picked Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the film, and that was the first time I watched it. And I have to sit there and say that half my team was traumatized by that movie. They were disturbed by it. They had never seen it before either, because it had only been 4 years since it came out. or no, it actually been almost 10 years since it's been out, but they had never seen it either. And then we
Mhm.
watched it for the first time, and they were like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, no, I do say this, I do say that there are a couple of films I wa
oh, can you hear me? All right.
what was that?
It seems like
I
it seems like you glitch until I speak. It seems like you get frozen, and then once I start talking, then it seems to free it. That's just I've never seen that before.
It's my
Uh,
internet, yeah, I knew this was gonna happen, but, yeah, it's just this is how bad my internet is, so
um, well, we'll plug our way through it. We'll walk it away.
I mean,
Whatever.
I haven't been dropped from the call yet, so I think that's the only positive.
Yeah, no, it just seems like it seems like you once you get frozen a little bit or glitch out, then once I
Yeah,
start talking, then you come right back into it. So we'll just keep doing that. Um,
alright, yeah, I'll try not to speak too long. Kinda bad for an interview, but I'll try not to tell as many stories as I can.
no, that's fine. I mean, we want to, I definitely is,
Yeah,
like uh yeah, maybe shorter answers might help out,
yeah, I'll like I said, I'll try to keep them a little shorter. I mean, not good for an interview, but I'll do my best.
Um, so now you said now what movies did you start watching when you got into 13 or 14? What you saw the
So,
night you saw Texas Chainsaw was your first film.
yeah,
So
Texas Chainsaw, I mean, Jaws, Scream, Bride of Chucky was another big one. There are a couple of Stephen King films. I want to say Shining, maybe Carrie. Christine was another one that I think I saw kind of early on.
okay,
Candyman, Halloween, the first the first two, Friday the 13th.
okay.
So yeah, as soon as I hit the genre, I kind of like hit the big ones inadvertently or just accidentally or fate, I guess. But that was kind of like the first group of films I saw.
Well, you were still able to go to the video store by that time, right? You were able to rent out
No,
video. No?
no.
Well,
They were going on, but the store closed near us. We switched to cable, and that's how I watched them.
okay, okay. We
So
didn't get cable till late. We used to
yeah,
we used to rent out.
we did too. We switched in 1998. I remember this vividly because they gave us a 20-year coupon a couple years back. They gave us a 20-year discount a couple of years ago. So we switched over in 1998.
Okay. Were your parents were they were they okay after the initial resistance to you watching them? Did they relaxed and trusted you to watch them? I mean,
Well,
was
they
there?
knew. Yeah, they knew I was. I already knew like all the movie making stuff by then. I had read tons of books. I'd seen all the making of and behind the scenes stuff like that. I was pretty comfortable knowing that this was all fake and none of this stuff was ever really going to affect me. So
That's something you mentioned. I think that's probably really important too, because I was very much like that too. I mean, I read all the magazines,
yeah,
uh, Forey Ackerman's Monsters, of course, Fangoria. Uh, that was a big one.
I didn't know about Fangoria until I got to college. Actually, a friend of mine in college, he was a Fangoria subscriber, and that's when I first heard about them. So Um, the Forey Ackerman one, Famous Monsters of Filmland, I saw that. There's a
Um, Forey Ackerman used to also write. He used to write as well. He used to do little commentaries in the Perry Rhodan books. Perry Rhodan was still, as far as I know, even today, It's probably the longest running continuous uh, book series in literature. I could be wrong about that, but I do think it is true. I think they're still printing the stories today. But Perry Rhodan has been around since the '60s, and when they try to bring the series over to the United States, they published the first 120 novels they published on Ace Publishing, and Forey Ackerman used to write in every Perry Rhodan book a little introduction and a little epilogue, and then they used to do short stories, and he would write a little forward to the short story. So he was that's how I knew about Forey Ackerman first
Mm.
before I got into Famous Monsters.
He was just a figure. Yeah, he was a figure that I just saw popped up because he was in. I picked up a couple of books and just from out of the library, just checking them out on dinosaur movies, and he was just somebody that just popped up. So I found him through there.
Um, yeah, I think it helps that's actually really. I mean, I know some people will say that would take away some of the magic and some of the imagination, though, knowing the secrets of it. But I also think that it's not necessarily a bad idea for especially young kids, 12, 13, who are wanting to get into films, wanting to watch horror movies. It's not necessarily a bad idea to sit there and give them a magazine to read, like here's the making of Scream 5. Well, here you go, read, here, this is for you, and you go ahead, and then you see all the stars and you hear them talk about the movie and you see the pictures and everything else. I think it helps alleviate what you necessarily see on a big screen. Now you're
Yeah.
watching it a little bit like, you're like, okay, I remember reading about that scene. And to me, I think it helps. It's still going to be scary. Hell, you're
Right.
only 12 or 13 years old, but now you're not going to be traumatized by it.
Right. Well, another thing for me, and this was I don't know if this was an issue, but I noticed that actors kept appearing even though they were dead. So having seeing like multiple films with the same actor in it, even though he died in one, it was kind of like that kind of like helped cement it, knowing that it was fake because like, well, if he died in this one, how is he still alive in this one?
Right, right, right.
So yeah, that one I would say was kind of like the first clue. But yeah, give him a few years, let him learn, let him get exposed to the magic and immersion, and then just like, okay, here's how it's done.
Yeah, I guess that's the reason why I know in a sense that's probably why you and I both got into, you got into your podcast, and I'm doing I guess this I'm doing this right here is because we've always appreciated the behind. We want to see the wizard. Some people don't want to see the wizard. They just want to be. They don't want to see how it works and the secrets. I do because I'm curious. I mean that's. I
Yeah.
mean I'm always wondering how it works. How about you? I mean, is curious? Was that what drove
Yeah.
you to start your podcast? Is one of the reasons behind it was because when you were watching horror and all these movies, were you curious at how they made it, where the ideas came
Initially,
from?
in well, initially the idea for the show was just all of my friends had a show, so why don't I have one myself? Um, the horror countdown isn't really a typical podcast. It's as the title says, it's list episodes. It's countdowns. So me and a guest pick a topic, and we count down 10 favorite films under that topic. So it's not necessarily like a review show. It's a list episode. It's list shows. So
But I like that though. I like that
yeah,
because those you're talking about 10 movies per list that actually
yeah,
mean something to you. You know, it
yeah,
means that the magic is remain has you've retained the magic.
yeah. I mean, I do have other shows where I'm a little bit more of a critical edge, and I do have more of a critical eye. But yeah, if you're talking about the show, it's just like it's a fun little topic I've had in mind for a couple of years now. Uh, Pick a topic, count down our 10 favorites, let the conversation go where it may, that kind of a thing.
Uh, Right. You know what? Roy and Becky are in the chat. They just commented. They said, says my older sister got me to watch her horror movies with her at the age of roughly 11 years old. So his older sister got him into watching horror films. That is so awesome.
Um,
So
yeah.
that's so cool.
I'm the older of the two between me and my sister, so it wouldn't have worked. But yeah, that I know that's a pretty common entry point is that the older sister is the one that's into it, and you follow in their
You know what?
you
You know
follow.
that's actually yeah. Mine wasn't like that, but I've actually have heard that, Don. I've actually heard that a lot of because girls love to be scared, especially teen girls, or younger
Yeah,
girls. They like to scream and they like to they like to run around and stuff like that. I mean, just look at your own grandmother. Your own grandmother is watching, your grandpa's watching westerns, and I love westerns. I mean, I do. In fact, my channel name is based after a western.
yeah, I
But
noticed.
uh,
That caught on.
uh, but but look at your grandma. Your grandma's watching Hitchcock and Lang and probably a lot more other well-known noir directors and actors, and that's a lot more deeper and darker than Godzilla. you know,
Yeah,
um, but then yeah, you know, I noticed on your podcast, I noticed you do have a lot of women come by and as guests and they contribute, and I think that's really cool. I really like that aspect of your show.
yeah,
Um, do you? I mean, because we all. I mean, that's we all like. I always like the. I don't know. I just think it's cool when a woman can just sit there and hold their own and talk horror films. I think it's really cool. I really do. I think it's and I like the aspect about the Women of Horror Month. And what was your first exposure to,
um,
other than your sister? What
yeah.
was your first exposure, as far as that goes? Like women in horror or a scene of the women fans. And was
What
it
was
like
that?
conventions? Was
What
it
was that?
conventions? When did you discover, like like I said, like one of the things about your podcast I like is that you have a lot of women as guests, um, which is really refreshing, because a lot of times during horror, you really don't see that too much. You really don't. You don't see, you don't see, okay, so what do you think about Scream? Most of the time, it's always going to be men. Horror seems to be underneath the mistaken that it's all male dominated, and it really isn't. There's
Yeah,
a lot of women out there who love horror, and they love being scared like the rest of us. I mean, do you think that's true?
yeah, absolutely. I know several people who say Scream is their favorite movie of all time. So, I actually run in circles with a person that Scream. They went to the theater to see Scream when they were.
Oh, see, there you go, Becky. You proved my point. You proved my point. That's exactly what I said. Um, there's a lot more women out there that love horror and love watching it, but they never really get the platform to really talk about it. I mean, and I think I think that's really what I like about what we have that small group now, the Final Girls. This is the first time. I mean, I'm 57. It's the first time I've ever seen a group of women of more than two or three of women. It's the first time I've ever seen like a collective that have actually can sit there and talk about horror and be knowledgeable about it enough to hold their own or even know more. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that's I think it's awesome. And here's
yeah,
here's Becky saying that her husband won't watch horror with her. I just think that's just so cool. Well, Becky, if you ever get to southeastern Michigan, I will watch horror films with you. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Um, yes, I love it. I love it, Anthony. I think it's awesome. I do. I think, and Don has had, so how many episodes have you had your podcast now?
So I'm about to release episode 4. It'll be released. It'll be the next episode to come out after.
Um, but you've done interviews as well too, right? You've done an interview series, right?
What was that?
You've done interviews as well, right?
Oh yeah, I've done for the last couple of years. I've done a bunch of Women in Horror Month interviews on my written website. So I've done a bunch of that as well.
Who have been some of the guests that who's some of the women you've interviewed?
Deborah Lamb, Helen Udy, um, a bunch of independent names. Let's see, Jen Nangle. Putting me on the spot here. I'm having a hard time blanking.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Open up that browser, buddy.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Last year, for Women in Horror Month,
I have never done a Women in Horror Month. I should.
managed 150. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, like I said, last year I managed 150 articles. So kind of remembering them all is kind of.
what month is Women in Horror Month? Is it March? Is it March or is it
I think
or
so.
April?
I think so. I think they made the switch to March just because it conflicted with Black History Month.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I wasn't a part of it. I have no say in the matter. I mean, I'm the wrong gender, but from what I remember, I think that was the case.
okay.
I think the problem was that they ended up announcing it like 8 o'clock the night on January the night before.
Because it used to be, was it, did it used to be in January?
No, it was February.
February. So, okay, it used to be
Yeah,
February. So they pushed it back till March. Okay. Well,
yeah,
good. I mean, that gives me time. That gives me time to make some adjustments, and I can do some Women in Horror Month activities.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying. Last year, I think it was weird because it was a discussion about it all January, and then I think the 31st they announced at like 8 o'clock at night that they'd switched it to March. So I
Okay.
think it just threw everybody off. But
Now, where did it come from? I mean, do you know the background of it? I've seen the
uh,
term before, but I only very loosely. I don't really know too much about Women in Horror Month. Do you know the history of it? I mean, you know,
no, I vaguely. I think it was just more about raising awareness and making their contributions known. You know, trying to like dethrone the stereotype of just like the slutty girl that gets naked and then dies. Celebrating like all of their achievements and accomplishments. I think it was just basically the case. I could be wrong. I mean, I wasn't there when it started, but I believe that's the case. What's up, Cheetah?
so, um, lately, every time I've been doing the show lately, he wants
Mhm.
to come up there and make an appearance. So the Women in Horror started out in Southern California, then, right?
I don't know. It was already a thing when I became involved in the community. So
Okay.
it was going on. I think it started in like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, because they just had like a 10-year anniversary thing.
Okay.
So
Uh,
it started then. It was already a thing long before I got involved because it took me a while. It took me a while actually to find it. I didn't actually find out about it until like 2019.
I only heard a little bit about it too. I really didn't know too much about it at all, and I was just like, okay, I didn't know if it was like a small group of people, like it was was it just a little collective that did it, or I didn't know if it was a because I haven't seen anything big on it. I mean, I don't think I've ever read anything mainstream about it. I mean, I've only heard it through back channels, but it sounds
Yeah,
fascinating. I mean, if you're going to sit there and talk about the women who contribute all things horror, because quite honestly, let's be honest, without women, there is no horror movies
right.
because
Yeah,
there really isn't.
yeah,
Um, because so I mean, to contribute, if you're talking about the people who write the stories, film the stories, and act in the stories, I think that's a really cool idea. And
yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I think I think it was just more of a collective movement to spotlight like creators, writers, directors, people like that that had been overlooked.
so you,
I don't know much. I don't know much more than that. I mean, I don't even know if I'm right. That's just what I've gathered. But like I said,
there's,
I came to it kind of late, and I wasn't there when it started. So I take this just as hearsay. I know there's an official website that has everything involved, but I haven't been able to memorize their slogan to memory yet.
we will. I will try to track that down, and I'll put it in the description box down below. So you've done. How many interviews have you done on your blog so far?
Well, last year I did about 150 for Women in Horror Month, and then I did 30 or 40 the year before. So
Okay. Oh, and do you do reviews, or are they all interviews you do, or
there's a
how do you get how do you get your interviews?
mostly I just post about it and saying, if you want to be involved in a Women in Horror Month feature, hit me up. Sometimes I'll hold reviews if I've seen something like maybe like late December, January that is a female director. I'll cheat and I'll hold the review back until the month, and then I'll like share it out and like post about it then. But I mean, usually I'm just conducting research on interviews and stuff like that, so I don't have like a lot of free time to do that. So if I catch something like December, January, I'll like hold back the review until then, so it'll be a part of the celebrations and stuff. But I do try to catch some first time watches then and there, but I will admit I've done that on occasion as well. So it's my
Now,
secret which one's which.
now,
Only I know when, but I'll just leave it at that.
now you said earlier on that you weren't really cognizant of the actors; you were more into the directors. But now here today, like, do you have favorite actors and actresses that you like watching?
I mean, like I said, I'm still a big Christopher Lee fan. I'll pretty much watch anything with him. Cushing, Karloff, Lugosi, anything with a Price, even. Um,
Nobody modern that you like? No, no
Not
actors.
really.
Wow.
Um, yeah. I mean, I can probably mention like indie actors who probably show up. I mean, like Felissa Rose or Brink Stevens or I mean somebody like that. But I mean, it's not like I have like a really like hardcore attachment. Like I have to watch them. I'm much more of a person. I'll watch it just because it's a horror film rather than because who's in it.
Mm.
That
Yeah, I tend to like to know who's doing the film because I mean, I guess if I'm watching a screener, it doesn't really matter because I'm not paying for it. But if I'm paying for something, I want it to be a known commodity. I don't mind doing blind buys. For a dollar. If it's something I don't know anything about, I can invest a dollar in, but I don't want to invest like $10 or $15 into something I don't know anything about. That's
see, yeah, yeah, I'm much more. I'm just like I'll just wait till it goes on Tubi.
okay. Okay. Are you a physical media guy, or have you switched over from
I
cable to streaming?
I stream. I buy what I can when I can. It kind of got curtailed because of the last couple of years, not necessarily having as much funds as I used to. But yeah, I buy what I can when I can.
Um, what are some of the things? What's the last thing you bought?
I mean, does cashing in Christmas gift cards count?
It does. It does.
Okay, then the Godzilla versus Kong 4K.
Okay. What did you think of the or the Godzilla trilogy?
I like it. I'm not a huge fan. It's just so hard to get into the CGI. I'm much more of the old school suitmation kind of a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
I,
too. I mean,
the spectacle is fine. I like the destruction scenes. Um, I do like the second one, King of the Monsters, more. I think that one's just pure fun, but even still, I still like the old school stuff. There's something about watching the guy in a suit doing that that I still like the trilogy, but give me a guy in a suit.
I think it's safe to say that okay, Star Trek, always talking about the red shirts, they're always they're first to buy the farm, right? Hey, we're gonna go to this planet. Let's drop down some
Yeah.
red shirts. I think it's safe to say that when it comes down to kaiju movies, that anybody wearing a military suit is basically a red suit.
Unless they're a general.
Yeah.
A field soldier, yeah. A field
I mean,
soldier,
'cause
let's just
I'm just thinking of all the think about the Japanese movies. Could you imagine that casting call? We're looking for 400 guys to play military soldiers. Oh, that means I'm going to die, doesn't it? Yeah, that probably means that. We want you to play a tank. We want you to play a tank commander. I'm getting burned, aren't I? Can you imagine the casting call for that? Uh, yeah, it's the last thing you want to play in a Godzilla movie is a tank commander or a jet pilot because you were going to buy the farm.
yeah. Yeah.
I like the I actually like the I thought the King of Monsters and Kong versus Godzilla were okay. Um, oh,
Yeah, I do think the first one, the 2014 one, is the weakest of the three.
and Kong Skull Island is really weak.
I
Uh,
kind of I kind of liked it.
just
It it bogs down in the middle, but
I,
I don't know. I kind of liked it.
you know what though? I don't mind. You know what it was for me? It was the story. It was a story, and God, it played stupid. It just you saw people do
Yeah,
stupid things. It's just like
yeah.
they would not
I
do
know what
that.
you mean. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it just wouldn't. It's like Scream. It's like, okay, I'm not buying, a 4'11", 120-pound girl, manhandling a 6'2", 200-pound guy.
yeah.
Like, you know,
I know what you mean. Yeah. I can see that bothering people. Yeah. I liked it. I won't say I loved it, but I liked it. I like the action scenes, I guess. I guess I'm
yeah.
just a sucker. I'm just a sucker for Kong throwing stuff around and smashing people in the face with things.
Well, it's funny 'cause, now, the underground, as soon as the movie comes out, right? You're sitting there watching it and you're going like, okay, they both live, they both go their own ways. And I got to be honest with you, watching the end of Kong versus Godzilla, you know, I mean, people here they know that I just want to see a crossover. I want to see a damn crossover between the Godzilla verse and Pacific Rim. I just keep on
Yeah,
now I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if Toho is going to let Godzilla come back. I think they will. I do because of the money that the movie's made and the publicity and everything else. Um, I think they will license it out to Legendary again. But good lord, if they're not going to do that, man, obviously, the next monster up, to me, as far as I'm concerned, is Kong meets God meets Gamera. Let's do it. Let's get a
uh,
cracking. I mean, I think we're in the middle of a little bit of a kaiju renaissance. In that sense. Uh, so, as going back to your interviews, who's been your five people? What five people have you enjoyed interviewing the most? Who did you enjoy talking to the most? Which five people have you interviewed? Have you enjoyed talking to the most?
let's see. Helen Udy, she was an absolute sweetheart. I had like 6 or 7 questions for her. We talked for about an hour.
Did you do it
She
on
was,
the phone, or did you
no,
do you do it on the phone, or did you?
we did a Zoom call.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I had like 5 or 6 questions for her, and we talked for about an hour, just telling stories about her film career and stuff like that. So I always go back to her. She was a true sweetheart, and one of my finest ones. Um, the first time I interviewed Jen Nangle, I always go back to this one because when I got the interview back, and I'm proofreading it and like like doing all like my edits and stuff, I remember being engrossed in the answers that she gave back to me that I almost forgot to edit. So that was like one of those where it's like, oh wait, hold on, I'm supposed to be editing this. Like I caught myself getting lost in the story she was telling. So that one, I always mention that because I've interviewed her twice, and the first one is the main one that I want to highlight.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Oh, Raina Gillette. She's a writer slash horror hostess. She was a fun one. I've talked to her a couple of times. She was a fun one. Let's see. Um, Oh, Angie Farrow. She was kind of fun. She was another one of those where I kind of like lost myself for a couple of paragraphs and when I was editing, like proofreading her answers. She was another fun one. And who's that author? Um, I managed to interview an author. Um, oh, Catherine Cavendish. That's who it was. Yeah, she gave me back some pretty fun answers. So
Um,
those yeah, those would be like those like the main ones I always like think of as like my big highlight kind of like
right.
yeah, those are like the ones I kind of like stand out. I always
Um,
forget her name for I always forget Catherine's name for some reason, but yeah, those are like the five that I always come back to.
how do you get your interviews? How do you get them to come over and talk to you?
I usually just post about it. The last couple of years, I've just made announcements on my blog's Facebook page. Um, I usually do that, and then I'll share it to a couple of groups, and I'll share it on my timeline. Like, if anybody's interested, hit me up, and word seems to spread like that.
Do you find it hard to attract people to interview, or do you I mean, do you get a lot of a reaction to it, or do you find people sort of dragging their feet?
Well, last year, like I said, I conducted 150 over the course of a month. So,
That's a lot
um,
of that's a lot of phone calls.
no, that these were all written stuff.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, this was all written stuff. I've only conducted maybe like 4 or 5 over like a video thing. I haven't done a phone one yet, but um yeah, I've done like a couple of video interviews, and like all the rest have been like written interviews. Uh,
What
usually, uh, usually I my work hours it's just like nearly impossible to like track down like a time to do like a phone interview. So usually I'll do video or I'll do written. That's usually like the main one.
uh have you yeah, I mean, yeah, 150, that's impressive. We're gonna put your title down. We're gonna put your blog link down below so we can all check out who you talk to. 150 is very impressive. I mean, what do you like better though? Do you like doing the written format, or have you started catching on with the live interview yet? I'm sort of I'm sort of, you know what, I sort of like doing both. I like both aspects of it. Um, when I do my written interviews, they're I don't edit at all. Actually, I don't edit their answers at all, except for grammar and English, and spelling. But
Yeah,
otherwise, what they say,
that's how I
yeah,
do it too. I'm just usually grammar and edit. I'm just like grammar and punctuation stuff like that.
right. No, I find that to be a really good selling card. As far as I'd like you to come do an interview with me. Um, when I tell them that, like, whatever you say is what we're putting down. I'm not changing a word. If I have
Yeah.
anything, if I have anything I want to talk to you about, like, if I have any, if I change anything at all, like some structure, I might have to structure a sentence or something like that. I will tell them what I'm doing before that, and I'll say I'm going to only do it to help the flow of the interview, but I'm not adding anything. I'm not taking anything out. Um, I just find that they seem to folks seem to really enjoy that, like, because most of the face it, most of the shit that we read in magazines, mainstream magazines, they're chopped up to ribbons. They're not pure interviews. They're not going to come out exactly how the subject is saying it. They always add their own tricks to it. Phrase a sentence here, or maybe skip a sentence there. And they manipulate the story. And I don't really like that too much. I just like, this is what they're saying. That's what I'm putting down. I mean,
Exactly.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
That was always my approach. You know, they're the ones telling the story. I'm not going to change why they're telling it, what they're telling, or why they're telling it. Maybe I'll make it a little easier to understand, or like fix grammar or punctuation. But yeah, I don't edit out anything.
you got anybody you got like any people who you really want to talk to? You got like a little grail list, like we all do, that you want to, people you like to talk to?
Mm, I mean,
Oh,
Maybe
everybody has.
Felissa. Well, maybe
Yeah.
Felissa. Just because I think the longevity just I'd probably be a little probably want to get her on. Um,
You know,
I've
Bring
always been.
Stevens. Bring Stevens was my very first actress I ever met at a convention.
Oh, I unfortunately haven't been able to do that. I haven't been lucky enough. I'd love to, but I'm either working, or it's a really heartbreaking scenario for me. I either have enough money for um, travel and lodging, or the ticket, not both.
Don't you get press releases? Don't you get a press pass?
I haven't asked for one yet. I don't know why,
Oh my
but
God. You should. You got 150 interviews. That's more than enough for a press pass.
well, yeah, but I mean, my site only has one follower, so
Well, it doesn't. They don't know that. They don't. They
yeah,
don't
but they
know.
would want to. I'm just saying. I figured that they would want to like check for stuff like that, like who are we giving this pass to, or I
You
mean,
can have one. Look, you can have one follower, right? Like, like my right here. Like, we're clocking it with 6 people watching us, right?
mm,
But the fact of the matter is like this is the beauty of it. Especially your written blog. Your written blog is everything. Your traffic to the written blog is massive. It's far more than our YouTube, our YouTubes. Like, a lot of people, I look at my views here. I mean, the blogs I've written with have written interviews. They're all in the hundreds. They're all in the hundreds. I get more traffic there than I do here, but I do like this format. And if I was going to ask for a pass, I would use my blog before I use my YouTube. I would sit there and say,
yeah,
because I would, because I even though I didn't really do anything last year, Don, I didn't do anything with it last year, but I still drew almost 16,000 people to it. You know,
yeah,
that's still. I mean, before I had, the year before I had over 30,000. But yeah, you should do press. Yeah, you should. Yeah.
I thought about it, but it's always one of those. It's like there's going to be dozens of sites bigger than me that are going to want to line up. I'm not going to get there, but I'd love to do it eventually. It's just yeah, that's always just been like my thing. It's like I'm not big enough to do it yet, and there's going to be dozens of other sites that are going to want in. Like I
You got to.
I know I know I have to like, but I know I have to do it, but
Hell, if you got enough on the ball to get to do 150 interviews, you got enough ball to get a breast pass. Yeah, you
yeah,
got skills. Take advantage of it. I don't know honestly. I don't know. I mean, and you said that you did your 150 interviews in a month. I don't know anybody could. That's just absolutely. That's some skills. My hat's off to you. Um, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna be checking out your website for sure. So what's coming up for you next? I mean, what do you talk to us a little about the listing? I mean, how did you come up with doing the top 10 list, and how do you pick the person you work with on the list? That seems to be
S
that's a good format. I like that.
the idea was just I was always a fan of doing those myself. I was on several podcasts that have done that. So doing like top 10 lists and countdowns was always something fun just because you're not highlighting one movie, you're highlighting 10 to 20 depending on like your who your partner is.
Right.
So bringing attention to more films, I always appreciated that. So I mean, I don't know too many shows that do this. You know, everybody's always got like a review show or an interview show. So it's kind of like those are like the two formats. Like nobody just exclusively does lists. So I thought this would just be like a fun thing to do, just like stand out or do something different.
I think what's different is that you have a guest come on there and do a list with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was kind of like the format was me and a guest. So
Mm.
I basically just put the call out and it's like, okay, if you want a topic, let's do it. So um,
How do you
yeah,
decide your topic?
recruitment is easy. It's just I make a saying. It's like I'm doing a show. Who wants on? Have it. Pick a topic and we'll go from there.
Oh, that's
It,
cool.
yeah, it's like I'm saying like recruitment's pretty easy. It's just I put it out there. It's like I'm doing a new show. Anybody have an idea? Let's talk about it.
Um, how do you? I mean, you said it before. You just starting to get going as far as that goes. What do you do to promote your? What are you doing now to promote yourself? Besides coming on a big show like this. I left him speechless. He's thinking about that. The big show. Uh, so what do you do to promote yourself? Your website and your generally your writing and interviews.
Uh, internet hiccups. I didn't catch any of that. What was it?
No. Okay. What do you do to promote yourself? How do you promote your blog? How do you promote you? How do you promote your the YouTube channel? I mean, and do you find promoting easy or hard? Uh, let's see if I speak, he'll unglitch.
Yeah,
There
sorry
you go.
about this, folks. Yeah, I've said this a couple of times, but if you're new to this, trust me, it's me. This is my internet.
Um,
It's not him, it's me. So I'm sorry about that. But one more time, please.
yeah. How do you promote yourself? How do you promote your blog? How do you promote you?
I usually just post about it on my Facebook wall. I do have Facebook pages for the show and my blog. I post on there as well. Um,
Um,
Go ahead.
do you find it is this the promoting part? Do you find it has it been helpful for you? Do you like doing it? How important is it to you?
I basically just do it out of habit. Because before I started doing it, I was getting maybe 9 to 10 view. I was getting like maybe double digit reviews on everything I did. So as soon as I realized that other sites had like Facebook pages and promotions and stuff like that, I started doing it. Um, yeah, I did notice a spike initially, so I just kept on doing it, and it's kind of grown from there. So it's just kind of like become habit now, where it's like every post I do, I put it on the blog. Every post on the site, I do it on the Facebook page. So
Right.
um, yeah, like I said, I initially didn't just because I was kind of like just I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just like doing it just because I wanted to, but because it was just I'm posting it on on my individual Facebook wall. Like I didn't, nobody was really looking at it. Nobody was really doing anything. So until I started doing the page, and it was when I made the page for it that I realized it was getting like more attention and more traffic. So I just kept on doing it, and now it's just become habit. So
Yeah, promote. I think promoting is actually it's probably the most interesting aspect. It's it's that's probably the hardest part about it. About doing a blog or a YouTube show or whatnot. To get the people out to watch it. I mean, it takes a lot of work. Plus, when you have a real job, when you have a life other outside of
yeah.
this. So, yeah. Well, I mean, for Women in Horror Month, we'll have to check that out if it's in March. Do you have anything done and do you have anything booked already for March? Do you have any interviews that you've
So
already done that you can mention?
um, the only
Or you
thing
want,
that I have.
I wouldn't mind this with StreamYard as long as they fixed it after I post it. If they came by and they fixed this glitch, I wouldn't mind it. But it is a little, it's hard to keep a rhythm. Ah, nope. I can see him talking, but we can't hear you. So nope, dropped out. Uh that happens. That happens. And he's right. This actually happens a little bit more in Southern California than I think most other places that I do the interview from. I've had this problem before. Most of the time, StreamYard fixes it within the first 10 to 15 minutes, and and then it's smooth. Uh, but it's sort of surprising though that they have such bad connections in Los Angeles. Um, just really sort of throws off a little bit. But nope, and he's back. Um, or not. He's not back, and neither am I. Looks like I froze up. Nope. Okay. I tell you what, Don, don't worry about coming back, buddy. I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and end this one. This is the We'll have to try to do this again a little bit later on in the year. Maybe we'll get a better connection. Um, this was a fun interview, regardless, though. And thanks for everybody who stayed with it, stayed here. I will tell you a little bit about what's coming up next week. Um, Before I let you guys all go, because the midnight hour starts at 10 o'clock. So for as far as our interviews go next week, we will be back on Monday. Monday night, we will be back here with actor Leo Olivia, a very hardworking and extremely talented actor. And he'll be here on the 24th. Leo has appeared in such films or series as Home Invasion. He's also done. He's also recurring in The Last Ship, and I saw him in a movie that he starred and directed in and produced called The Shift, or he starred and he wrote and he starred in called The Shift, and that'll be on the 24th. On the 25th, we have the lovely Jamie Hart will be with us for a night of fun, including all you need to know about a fine damn a cup of coffee and cherry pie. If you know Jamie, you know what I'm talking about. Um, oh, Don's going to come back, and he's back.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
like a. I knew this would happen sooner or later.
yeah, don't worry about it. Just chill right there for a second. If you can still hear me, just chill out, and uh, maybe they can fix it later on. I'm gonna, we'll come back and do it again. I definitely want to have you coming back on, and and talk. Um, yeah, you didn't even make it back onto this big screen. Oh, that sucks. Come on, Pico Rivera. Um,
Ugh.
don't worry about it. don't worry
Sorry.
about it. Like I said, this has actually happened before. You're not the first victim of it, so don't feel bad at all. I think we got enough in here that people come by and they can pretty much pick up what we're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just reading off the calendar. This is what you need, young man. You need
I
one
know,
of
I
these.
know, I know.
You need,
I know we were talking about that, but
yeah.
yeah, I
Um,
know.
uh, well, we got let's see. I was talking about who we got on next week. So, like, I got Jamie Hart will be with us on the 25th, and we got award-winning playwright Stephen Foster will be here with us next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and then next Thursday. I probably should have. You know what? You could use this for Women in Horror Month if you don't have your dates booked. If you don't have you know what? I'll do that. Eileen Isley will be here at 8 p.m. You want to talk to her. Eileen Isley is the creator of Duke, the most best looking killer unicorn. She is the producer in the Carousel series, and she was the actress that played the villainess in the Carousel 2, the second one. So Eileen
Oh,
Isley will be here with us. Oh my! Have you seen Carousel?
yeah, I've seen both.
Okay, so Eileen played the villainess.
Oh, nice.
Um, yes, yes. I thought she's fearless. I absolutely love it. I absolutely loved it. She was fearless, and so she's the one that created Duke. Her husband, or soon-to-be husband, Steve, he's directed both films, and he produced it. Those two produced it together, and they co-wrote it. And so she'll be here on the 27th. I've already interviewed Steve Runzinski. He's another guy you should talk to. That guy really is a cool guy. That guy's a hero. Um, he really is. He works for Disney. He does he plays like Spider-Man and stuff like that, but he flies all over the world and he does like Make a Wish.
Hmm.
And yeah, he goes around and he does Make a Wish for young kids that want to meet Spider-Man or whatnot. That's their wish. So he
Oh,
dresses up as
nice.
like, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that until I talked to him and I was like, dude, you're a damn hero.
Hmm.
Um, So and Eileen will be here for us on the 27th, and that closes out January. So yay, and then we'll head into February. But listen, Don, I'm going to cut you loose. I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking. We're going to put all your information down in the description box down below. Um, and then when you start getting, you and I are friends on Facebook now. Um, Please, by all means, feel free to promote your stuff on our group, and because
Okay.
we're stronger together. Um, that's it
Absolutely.
for us.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's it for us. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I'd like to thank my wrenches, Hobbs, and Mr. Bones. All the rest of you folks in the chat. Again, it's his internet.
It's
It's
me.
glitchy.
Sorry.
It's glitchy. It's all
It's
right. It's
me.
not your fault.
Yeah.
It's not your
I know.
fault.
I'm just saying it's me. It's me.
Yeah. We'll see you Monday with Leo Oliva, and we'll see you in about 20 minutes on the midnight hour. Talk to you guys soon.
Later.
Stay right where you're at, Don.
Okay.